Joining us now, Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be with you.
So I know last year during the primary season, you had some concerns about whether President Trump was the right way forward for the party. You wanted to know whether he can expand beyond his fervent base, which is clearly sticking with him. Do you think he's done enough to build a coalition outside of that? What does he need to do Tuesday night?
Well, I think he needs to let Kamala Harris talk, something she's been reluctant to do unless she's reading a teleprompter. And I think we've seen the polls very close, but mainly she's coming off of this, as James Carville called it, a sugar high after the coup d'etat that was committed against Joe Biden. And then, of course, the convention. So I'm looking forward to a repetition of the good debate performance that President Trump had with President Biden, and I think he's up to it.
So after that change at the top of the ticket, there's been a lot of new enthusiasm, new fundraising, and there is talk about how that's impacting down ballot. Politico says that Republicans are starting to get a little concerned about the fundraising gap, saying this: panic is starting to set in. The only thing preventing us from having a great night in November is the massive financial disparity our party currently faces. That's from the executive director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. He says unless something changes drastically in the next 6 weeks, we will lose winnable seats. Are you worried about this down ballot impact on efforts by the GOP to retake the Senate?
Well, fundraising is important, but so are the issues, so are the quality of the candidates. And I think we have an outstanding group of candidates running for the Senate. I'm optimistic about our chances to regain the majority. And I hope they have enough money to defend themselves and to talk about what they are for, what they would do if elected. I'm confident they will, but yeah, the money's just astronomical. It just blows my mind.
It really is. I mean, when you watch these ticking in, the millions that have come in just at the presidential race, hundreds of millions just the last few weeks. Of course, you are in the running to replace Mitch McConnell as the Senate's top Republican. What will your priorities be should you achieve that post? And how might that differ if you're dealing with a Harris-Walz administration versus a Trump-Vance administration?
Well, when President Trump is reelected, along with my colleague J.D. Vance, I expect we'll be helping the administration pass their agenda. And I don't see a lot of daylight between what Republicans in the Senate want to do or know we need to do. Things like reauthorize the expiring provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We need to reestablish our nation as the preeminent leader in the world when it comes to national security matters under President Biden. Our friends don't trust us and our enemies don't fear us. It was the opposite under President Trump. So we'll be working very closely with the administration to accomplish their priorities. And I don't really see, as I said, a lot of daylight between what my colleagues in the Senate want to do next year. We're going to have to also, though, look at the debt. We're now spending more money on interest on the national debt than we are on defense. And right now, the world has gotten more dangerous, and most dangerous since World War II. So we have a lot of heavy lifting to do, and it'll help the bigger our majority is.
So let's talk about a couple of things you mentioned there, the tax cuts. You know, Democrats from the vice president on down say that they are President Trump, a rich guy giving cuts to rich people. And when you talk about the debt, that those kinds of tax cuts actually leave a revenue lag for the federal government and contribute to things like the debt.
Well, the American people are not undertaxed. The federal government spends too much.
Do you admit both parties do that?
Well, there's some complicity there. Certainly during COVID-19, there was a lot of bipartisan efforts to keep our economy afloat and to help deal with this pandemic. But there's been a lot of partisan spending, gasoline really on the inflation fire, $2.7 trillion in partisan spending bills post-COVID. But I think we're at an inflection point. Part of the problem is we spend money in ways that are not just appropriations. We spend $1.8 trillion in the tax code. There's about $200 billion alone that's spent through the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. I'm for those, but I do think they need to be offset. They need to be paid for. And so we need to look at all of that $6 trillion in federal spending and determine what our priorities are as a nation. I think that's our job.
Well, and we also are about to get to the end of government funding, facing another continuing resolution, sort of that short-term financial Band-Aid. It looks like the House is going to send it over with the SAVE Act attached, which basically says if you're going to go register to vote in federal elections, you have to show proof that you're a U.S. citizen. A number of Senate Democrats have said that's dead on arrival. It's not going to happen. How worried are you about this thing pinging back and forth and facing a shutdown? Is that going to hurt Republicans in, this final stretch of an election?
Well, Shannon, in a sane world, the SAVE Act would be non-controversial. It essentially is a national voter ID, and I would think both parties and everybody would be interested in protecting the integrity of the ballot and making sure that people only legally qualified to vote do so. But it's become a partisan issue, which is amazing to me, but I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. We'll see. The House will have to move first, and they got to get to 218, and then it comes to the Senate. I hope we'll have a debate and an opportunity to vote on it. And I can't imagine that Senator Schumer is excited about having his incumbents who are running tough Senate races voting against a bill that just says you have to be an American citizen to vote.
That'll be the next couple of weeks, we think. But I want to touch on the border because clearly Texas bears a huge brunt of this and what's going on there. The vice president, though, has been touting her work. She says she was tough on cartels and gangs, and she's litigated against these people, held them accountable. She also said this in her DNC speech.
Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security.
I will not be surprised if your colleague, Senator Chris Murphy, brings this up when we talk to him next. It has been a messaging talking point that has stuck for Democrats, this idea that President Trump is the one who kept the border problem alive because he told you guys not to vote for it.
Well, that's just false, is a short answer to that. And the truth is that the Biden-Harris administration has spent 3.5 years dismantling all of the Trump border security policies that produced a far better outcome at the border. I was just down in the Rio Grande Valley a couple weeks ago with Senator John Boozman from Arkansas, and the way the Border Patrol explained it to me, they said this is a shell game. Now the federal government, if you use the CBP One app, Customs and Border Protection One app, you can schedule an appointment at a port of entry, and the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, will simply usher you into the United States and give you a work permit. That is a huge magnet on continued illegal immigration. So we need to return to the policies of the previous administration, remain in Mexico, just as one of them. But this is all a shell game, in my view.
We will see. And whoever wins White House, House, Senate, whether it's divided or together, there hasn't been much progress on the issue of immigration. So we'll see. Thank you for stopping by. Always
Thanks,
good to see
Shannon.
you, Senator.